What is the most embarrassing non-porn item someone could find on your computer? I never let anyone read my stories. I mean, what if they thought I wasn't any good? I just don't think I could take that kind of rejection. I guess it's pretty hard for somebody to understand. I don't know why I can handle rejection in every other way except for writing. Make fun of my dancing, my art, my acting, my singing, my fashion, but if you make fun of the stories I want to tell, my heart couldn't take it. I'm a writer. If either of you are interested in talking about your work in a collaborative environment, DM me. Edit. Thanks everyone for reaching out. Sorry, but I'm not interested in creating a subreddit or a large writing group. I am also not interested in being a gateway to a publisher or a producer. I am however interested in talking about the work and the process at an individual level. I understand how personal your work is and how vulnerable the creative process is. But with my experience with helping newer writers get comfortable with creative work, including Redditors I've met and phoned, I'd like to be able to help at least make the first time you share your work and ideas a more comfortable, inviting, positive experience. I wrote a long story on this old Mac computer my grandma gave me when I was in middle school. Forgot about it when I got a newer computer before going away to college. Home for Christmas during my junior year, my mom tells me that she is giving our old computer to a woman she works with, who has a son who loves to play with old computers. Cool, I think. Until approximately 4 a.m. the next morning, when alarm bells go off in my head, my story. So while everyone else is still asleep, I'm booting up an old Mac in our cold garage so I can delete some story I wrote back in middle school. Judging by my horribly written narrative, I was writing during my obsession with Dr. Quinn, medicine woman. Used to drive for half a day to meet my, now wife, when we lived in different cities. Along the way I'd narrate some notes at random thoughts for sorry ideas saved as audio files on my iPod. Somehow these didn't get cleared when I passed it off to her, hers broke and I'd moved on to using my phone. Honestly wanted to jump off a cliff when I heard her listening. Mostly stuff for fantasy, as in wizards and dragons, not sexual, genres, which is not really something she's into, and since it was mostly idea crafting it was pretty free flow and not so coherent. Thankfully she hadn't listened to much and didn't really get it anyway, just assumed that it was related to one of my geek hobbies. I once searched Lebanese because I was curious how this very American-looking Lebanese girl I was crushing on looked compared to a more traditional Lebanese woman. Flash forward a few weeks and my friends are over, I run upstairs to grab something, come back down and they thought I had been jerking it to just elderly Lebanese women on Google Images. They then keep scrolling and find a search for I think my best friend might be gay. What's funny is the group wrongly guessed who I thought my best friend was. Yes. My Notes app is a glimpse into the utter chaos that is my innermost thoughts and daily struggles, long essays in preparation for internet arguments I'm too afraid to have when the opportunity presents itself, random Reddit comments I like and want to have access to even if they get deleted or removed, news articles and studies I thought were interesting, recipes I want to try, the full text of the U.S. Constitution/Declaration of Independence and snippets of the Communist Manifesto and Churchill speeches, poems by T.S. Eliot and W.B. Yeats and Whitman, long rants about things that piss me off online and in real life. It goes from grandma to Ted Kaczynski real fast. Yeah, my Notes app has lists that would probably have me on a list. Every stray thought gets jotted down for more in-depth consideration later. Some of those thoughts might be misconstrued. At least I cleared out my Safari of 50 open tabs that I kept perusing every now and then. We won't talk about the hundreds of bookmarks I've saved. I keep a file on everyone I have met more than 3 times. This includes every picture in which they appear and every recollection of dialogue between us, along with a short time-stamped summary of every interaction we have had. People would think I'm either a serial killer or a spy if they found this folder. Edit. Here's an example of someone's file, my roommates from 3 years ago, archived version. I model them after Wikipedia pages. Here's another example. Note how I refer to myself in the third person. Why do you do this? I'm obsessed with keeping statistics on myself and others. It helps me feel in control of my life. I know for a fact who I can and can't trust because I can analyze past interactions with people, and that's comforting to me. Additionally, it helps me avoid foolish courses of action and take prudent ones because I can see the interconnected web of relationships between people I know. Additionally, it gives me a sense of superiority in arguments whenever I can pull, without contest, a source stating at 10:43 p.m. on February 8th, "You called me an oaf," and be totally right. I find this incredibly interesting. There are many times I wish I had a scribe following my every interaction and conversations with people, especially my significant other. It would be very enlightening to be able to go back to certain arguments or discussions without emotion playing tricks with your memories. You wouldn't happen to have any diagnosed conditions, like ASD plus OCD, would you? I was diagnosed with ASD as a child, but I don't believe childhood diagnoses follow you into adulthood, so I consider this an illegitimate diagnosis today. I am quite certain I suffer from BPD. To be fair, they don't necessarily not follow you into adulthood, they may or may not. I'm not a psych by any stretch, but what you're describing is pretty interesting. It sounds like you are approaching interpersonal relationships like a puzzle or a code, which can be solved/broken if you have sufficient data. That's not wrong, per se, but it is a very different outlook from most people. It's common for people with various ASD conditions to report that social interactions don't make sense, or that it's hard to read people's intentions or reactions. OCD often results in behaviors that give the person a sense of control over their environment. And it's not uncommon for them to present together. You've described my outlook on the situation exactly. Social life is not fluid to me, but rather a mosaic of interconnected events and characters whose actions influence each other and me, and I am standing outside as an observer and very rarely directly participating. It is cathartic to be able to draw a connection and declare X happened as a result of Y, and be correct about it. I generally flounder in the moment, however, as social interactions can only be analyzed in retrospect, and I am often still processing them while they're occurring, leading to conversational paralysis. Without saying that you're wrong per se, I would say that interpersonal relationships aren't that mechanistic/deterministic, but they can be probabilistic. Like it's hard to say X happened because of Y, and couldn't have happened otherwise, but more that X increased or decreased the odds of Y, maybe by a little, maybe by a lot. You're dealing with a chaotic system, where small changes in initial state can have drastic downstream influences. You're dealing with incomplete information, and you're dealing with possible errors in your data gathering. There's a lot of analog noise and shades of gray. You have to be careful about not pulling a Texas sharpshooter and trying to fit the data to the situation ex post facto to make it seem like of course things were going to happen that way. The outlook you describe is very common in folks with ASD. That relationships are enigmas to be solved. If only I learned the rules, then I could succeed at social interaction. Also, it is a developmental disorder, so in theory, it does by definition follow folks into adulthood, but there are also certainly kids who get diagnosed and their DX is not stable across the lifetime. Disclaimer that I say this all generally and not pertaining to the original commenter. Edit, didn't proofread. I am so glad I am not the only one. I have files on so many people that I know online and URL. Full names, address, phone numbers, places of work, family, friends, etc. I don't do it to dox anyone or to hurt anyone. I have never shared the information. It's almost like a game I play with myself to see how fast I can find as much information on someone. I am scary good at it. I keep the files buried deep so no one will ever stumble on them. You would have to know they were there, understand how I hide things, and understand how I file everything to put it all together. Oh fuck me, first drafts of my writing and song sketches. Some of us have a relationship with music where, it sort of happens automatically. It's like a flash of lightning, a song is just there in your head, completed and ready to go. The problem is, this is a little like waking up from a dream in that the clarity and detail of the song fades over the minutes following the flash. If you don't get it out now, it ends up lost forever. So there are many recordings of me humming and whistling various parts of songs into the mic like a goddamn psychopath, just trying to get it out now so I can arrange it properly when I have the time to deal with it professionally. I write myself a bunch of positive messages and motivational snippets all over my sticky notes so when I open my laptop in the morning, they are the first thing I see. The one in the upper left corner is what my brother said when I fell over roller skating as a kid, "It hurts now, but it won't hurt forever." Another note is from one of my first patients, who said I was the first doctor who stopped and really listened to her. Some are just nice messages from myself to remind me that I can only try my best on tough days, and I'm more than a rejected paper or unanswered text.